Listen to the following talk.
My husband turned his back on me right after our wedding when he realized he couldn't get any more money out of me. Now I understand why he's been married before. His first wife lasted 6 months, while I barely managed 4. We've only been married for 4 months. Before the wedding, he promised that he'd give me all his wages. His parents even supported him financially so he could cover wedding expenses. They gave him around 200 million dong, which he spent mostly on jewelry, and the rest on wedding costs. To make up for what was missing, he borrowed money from his sister. The bride price was 50 million dong, and my parents gave that money to the both of us. My husband took it all to pay off his debt to his sister. After the wedding, he used the gifts from his side of the family to settle his debts. He was left with nothing. I knew he was financially strained, but I married him anyway because I loved him. A few years back, he bought a small house, so at least we didn't have to worry about housing. I have my own house, but he refused to live with my family. My mom even suggested that we build on my land, where we could live together and rent out his property, but he wouldn't go for it. The gifts I received from my side of the family and my dowry were mine to keep. I put the cash from my mother in a savings account, keeping only about 20 million dong on hand for emergencies, like hospital visits or childbirth. My family covered over half the wedding costs. My husband claimed that his family spent their retirement savings to help fund our wedding, and asked if I could contribute 2 million dong a month to his parents, just temporarily until he could start sending money again. I agreed without a second thought, assuming that as a married couple, we'd be managing our finances together, including family support on both sides. But soon after the wedding, he changed his mind, saying, "What's yours is yours. What's mine is mine." I started feeling like I'd been tricked into a cage. He has his own house and earns 10 million dong a month, same as I do. I suggested we set aside a shared savings fund, contributing 3 to 4 million each month for future family needs. But he refused, insisting we keep our money separate. He told me I should relax and spend freely, that he'd take care of the family. Yet, I felt like we were roommates, not partners, without any shared goals. He didn't have any money left after the wedding, so we didn't go on a honeymoon. I offered to cover a trip to Thailand, but he scoffed, saying that Thailand was boring and we should go to Japan instead. I didn't argue, even though I thought it was unrealistic for our financial situation. The following month, I reminded him about sending money to his parents, suggesting he give me 1 million dong so I could add another million for a total of 2 million to send. He reacted angrily, saying that because he married me, he'd exhausted his parents' PSASAC retirement fund, and I should be the one to cover that responsibility. When I refused, he kept bringing it up, subtly blaming me for it. I wanted to avoid conflict so early in the marriage, so I continued to contribute, hoping he would save up for us. But he started expecting me to shoulder all family expenses, including both our families, gifts, and holidays. Then, I discovered that he had taken 10 million dong from my emergency fund without telling me. When confronted, he said he'd forgotten to mention it. I felt betrayed. If anyone else had taken money from my drawer without permission, it would be considered theft. His reason was that he needed it for household repairs and visiting family, but he wasn't using it for anything that benefited us directly. I didn't see the point of spending on a trip to his family or unnecessary repairs we couldn't afford. He wasn't even helping with family obligations before we got married. After finding out, I took my gold and jewelry back to my parents' house. By then, I'd lost all trust in him and felt deceived and disrespected. When I left, he didn't try to stop me. Instead, he sarcastically taunted me. 2 months later, he demanded a divorce, only to apologize a week later, saying it was a joke. My parents encouraged me to forgive him, but his apology was insincere. He promised to leave his salary with me, but even after months, he never replaced the money he'd taken from the emergency fund. When I mentioned it, he'd accuse me of being obsessed with money. Despite everything, I continued supporting him and his parents, buying them medicine and treats and covering household expenses. But he still expected me to pay for everything while spending his money on luxury items, dining out, smoking, and even hobbies like billiards and lottery tickets. I felt exhausted, humiliated, and unfairly burdened. During the 8th lunar month, I needed funds for a personal project, distributing 200 free meals for the Mid-Autumn Festival. I'd already covered family obligations and given my in-laws their monthly support. My husband's payday is on the 10th and 20th, and on the 21st, I was out of money. He asked me to buy groceries, and when I asked him to contribute, he refused, calling me selfish and accusing me of only caring about myself. I felt heartbroken. I had married him out of love, with the intention of building a life together. My family is well off, and I can't imagine how he would treat someone with fewer means. Every month, he finds a reason to pick a fight, often holding grudges about issues from the past. He expects children, but barely communicates with me. He even suggested I should pay for fertility treatments like IUI and IVF, despite both of us having been cleared as healthy. My family suggested we wait a year before pursuing treatments, but he became furious and ignored me. Even when I bought him vitamins, he barely touched them, blaming his neglect on my supposed lack of care. He compares me unfavorably to other women, even trivializing my health issues. I wondered who would actually take care of a child if we had one, and he just said, "Mom will," without clarifying which mother he meant, his or mine. It left me questioning why I'd married him in the first place. When I stopped sending money to his parents, he demanded a divorce again and sent his sister to negotiate. She locked me out of our home, demanding that I repay 200 million dong supposedly borrowed from their family. They claimed that the money given for our wedding was actually a loan. I returned my wedding jewelry, worth 155 million, and left with nothing. Is it my fault that my husband left me? Now I finally understand why his first wife only stayed 6 months and I only managed 4. My family and I trusted his family too much and loved them, only to be repaid with betrayal and heartache. They're now demanding a divorce, and I agreed. I'm exhausted and heartbroken, and though I tried everything, they never appreciated me.
This content is just an example for learning English. Thank you for watching. How do you feel about this video? Please leave a comment below.